Welcome to Executive Insights and Happy New Year. My guest today is Helen Polatajko, Board Director of a number of public and private boards. In this episode, we explore the priorities that boards are focusing on since the pandemic and the importance of having technology expertise represented at the table. Helen shares her journey of transitioning from a corporate CIO to a board director 10 years ago and offers great advice to IT leaders interested in becoming board ready. We also discuss the topic of lack of diversity on boards and what we need to be doing to accelerate progress. Hi, Helen. Thank you so much for joining me and Happy New Year.
Thank you. Same to you.
Thank you. Helen, you sit on a number of boards across industries. What are the priority topics and issues that boards are focusing on since the pandemic?
Yeah, it's a great question, Nasheen. And, interestingly enough, the boards are still focusing on the same things as we always have, security, disruptive technologies, digital. I think the difference now is we have the filter, if you will, of the pandemic. So now we're looking at all of those security, disruptive technologies, digital, all through a pandemic filter. Security is different, obviously, now with people working from home. So we've had to be more insightful about how to ensure that working from home still has a level of security that everyone had when they were at their offices. Obviously, the pandemic was a disruptive change that, although we have been thinking about disruptive changes, probably not quite the way this has turned out to be. So again, a different filter. And then digital, I believe, so many organizations were on the road to digital transformation. The pandemic has really accelerated organizations move into that space. And again, that's where security had to come in a balanced way. I would think the biggest difference, Nasheen, that we are seeing is really, as I've mentioned, the work from home. What does that mean? More from an employee standpoint, how are employees coping with working from home? How do we maintain a culture while we're working from home and we're all individuals, if you will, as opposed to in offices? So the work from home has taken on a dialogue at the board meetings, obviously ensuring health and safety of our employees. So that's probably obviously the biggest difference. And then now continuing to think about what the return to work will look like, because that's obviously on the horizon somewhere, although unfortunately that horizon keeps getting extended. But that is something that we on the boards are obviously looking into.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate that. I think, because the boards are so instrumental for influencing the strategic directions for companies, it's very important to understand their priorities. Helen, prior to your board director responsibilities, you were a very accomplished CIO leading technology and business services teams in the financial services industry in the US and Canada. How important would you say to have IT leadership representation at the board's table?
It goes back to what we just talked about. It's so important in all the spaces, the security, the digital transformation. Risk has taken on a greater part of the discussion at the board table, and technology risk obviously is a major part of that. But now also, I think that industries are understanding that technology leads business strategy in many ways, as we've seen through this pandemic, is that technology has taken a foremost seat at both the board table, sitting on both sides of the board table, whether as a board member or as a CIO reporting to the board. So I really believe that technology has taken this time and opportunity to move the technology agenda forward in a way that I believe a lot of CIOs had always wanted to, again, with not just cyber risk and privacy, but really talking about how does technology lead an organization? How does it help with its business strategy? How does it help with innovation? So I really, Nasheen, believe that this, again, looking at what the silver lining is in the pandemic, has really helped technology both as a CIO and as a technology leader at the board, understand the different ways the technology can help us at this time.
Yeah, I completely agree with you that having tech expertise at the board table is so important these days. Historically, CIOs have not always been considered important voices on boards. And in fact, today, many corporate boards still have a shortage of tech expertise, even though the good news is, as you just pointed out, the pandemic has forced many companies to really accelerate their digital mindset and to lean on technology. How can more CIOs join boards? What should they be doing to get themselves prepared and ready?
I think they're doing a lot of it now. And as I said, I think the pandemic has accelerated a lot of CIOs' mindsets in that way, that they are not looking just at the operational metrics, if you will. They have been asked to accelerate many of the programs that they have underway: digital, security, risk. And so I would encourage the CIOs to continue expanding in those arenas if they're interested in sitting at the board table. Um, Sitting at a board table, you really need to have more than one expertise. It's great to have a strength, but you really need to have broad experiences. And so CIOs should continue to broaden their experiences while they're at their organizations. Again, not to be just single focused, but really bringing forward innovation, risk, strategic thinking is so important now. And I think another good way to start for CIOs is some of the not-for-profits are always a good way to start to get that experience of board governance, board thinking. And so that might be something that CIOs might want to consider is for the not-for-profits. But sometimes just looking at what the board skill sets are and what they're looking for is always helpful for a CIO if they're interested, because obviously most CIOs have to be at the executive table, and so they are broader than just the technology component. But there's training. Obviously, there's a certification that CIOs can look into to really get even more schooling, if you will. But there's nothing like experience to sit at the board table, experience in what you've done over the past years as a CIO that will be truly welcomed and needed.
Yeah, great advice, Helen. You've been involved in board initiatives for 10 years now. Let's talk about your journey. How did you get started?
Yeah, it's been a long journey, but it's been it started when I was still a CIO. Quite frankly, I was always already starting to think about what comes next. I knew that I had enjoyed my CIO career, but I wanted to move on to my next chapter. And I also knew that I wanted to continue in technology and give back all those years of experience that I did have as a CIO. And I thought that sitting at a board table, I would be able to do just that, give back my experience and continue to help organizations. Again, not just through technology, but through the risk background that I have, through the strategic thinking that I learned and experienced at the executive table. So I think it was just a natural for me, a natural transition from a CIO to a board position. I started off with some provincial boards here in Ontario, and then was able to move into a few other different types of boards, for profit and not for profit. It's been a great experience, and my background leading into this has really been helpful. I know many boards, as we've talked about, recognize that technology is taking a bigger role and playing a bigger role, not only in organizations and at the boards. Boards are looking to have that kind of technology expertise at the table. So my journey has been one of continuing to educate boards at the table, although they look to me sometimes as a technology leader, if you will. But really, it is important for all members of the board to understand technology, understand opportunities that technology can bring, but obviously all the risks surrounding that. So my journey's been wonderful. I've enjoyed it. I'm continuing to do board work right now. And as you know, it's important to keep up with technology. So it's not just what I've known over the past years as a CIO, it's what I continue to know and what I continue to learn and bring to the board. So I would just recommend again for CIOs, if you do move into that space of board work, continue to stay active in the tech community, just like I am with you, Nasheen, on the IT Media Group Advisory Board. It helps me connect with current CIOs and stay current with what's happening in the tech world. I do a lot of sitting in on conferences, listening, participating. So just all of that really has continued to grow my board experience in a way that I couldn't have actually imagined, but I'm enjoying it thoroughly.
Yeah, thank you, Helen, for sharing your journey and for also your generosity of giving your time and your expertise. And we're certainly a great beneficiary of your generosity. And thank you for that.
Well, it's been great. I've really appreciated having the opportunity, Nasheen.
Helen, you're actually an inspiration to me personally, and not just for all your accomplishments, but also for your drive, for your energy, and for your spirit. I wish more women like you or more women in general are on boards. Unfortunately, many boards are still underrepresented by women and also by people of color, which can really have a limiting effect on perspectives and experiences. I was just reading a study the other day. There's a study conducted by Ryerson University Diversity Institute, and across Canada, only 13% of corporate boards have more than 40% women represented. And 11% of corporate boards have no female representation at all. And when it comes to people of color, the stats are even more telling. In Toronto, for example, racialized people make up the majority of the population, but only 15% are represented in board positions. So how can we design a board that prioritizes diversity and inclusion?
No, you're absolutely right, Nasheen. Those are statistics that are disturbing, quite honestly. And there's a few reasons, and I've been thinking about it, and there's a few reasons that I can attribute this to. And although, as you said, the population is that diverse, it's the working population, the professionals are not quite that diverse at this point. And so the pipeline that boards pick from are from those professionals, and the numbers in the professional ranks are still not where we need them to be, whether it's with women or with minorities, as you were suggesting. So I think the pipeline is what really needs to change, and we are getting slightly better. I know it's not a good thing. We need to get better faster. Just going back to the technology that we're talking about, as you know, there have not been very many women in technologies early on, but now it's, you know, that's much more. It's where women are much more represented at the CIO table and at the executive table. So that's the pipeline that boards are going to start picking from. It is, you know, it's slow, but the pipeline is getting better. I would also say, unfortunately, and I just read a study that Deloitte did recently, that the average age of board members and the average demographic of a board member is 63 years old, white male. That's the average demographic that Deloitte has come back with. And part of that has to change at the board table also. Some boards don't have mandatory retirement at 75 years old. And so that has to change, where we need to get more representation at the boards, because terms are modified, that more new members can come in more quickly than waiting for members to reach 75. So there's quite a number of dynamics at work here and at play. But I would think that as more women and minorities get on boards, and boards look at skill sets of what is needed at the board table, they will understand that women, minorities, as well as men, obviously have the appropriate skill sets, and we should look at the broad demographics of that. And so I think it's timing, but I hate to say that we're still talking about its timing. But it will change, and it's changing faster. I think the percentage of increase is going faster than it did at the beginning, but that's still small consolation. So we need to look to each other to continue expanding that and help boards in that direction, Nasheen.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Helen. And I so appreciate this thought-provoking and insightful conversation.
Thanks, Nasheen. It's been great to see you, and all the best in the new year.
Thank you so much, and same to you. And for everyone watching interested in getting on boards and reaching your next career milestone, I hope you find the content of value. This is another episode of Executive Insights by the IT Media Group. Thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video, please check out other CIO-centric content on our YouTube channel. And don't forget to subscribe